Last night, when we were about a day away from Jerusalem, we stopped to rest for the night. But it was hard to relax, and I didn't get much sleep. My thoughts continually turned to my son. I remember so vividly how Jesus came into our lives. A wonderful, beautiful baby boy. It was a long time ago now, over 30 years, in the village of Bethlehem. I remember making that long journey, riding on the back of our donkey, with faithful Joseph walking beside me.
The people who in darkness dwell shall see a glorious dawning light. The fearful shades of death and hell no more shall blind their sight. For unto them from God a child will come, a son, and he will fight with sin and death till victory is won.
The word came down among us on a brilliant starlit night. A child was born, the world was changed, and shadows took their flight when Mary bore the love of God in a stable filled with light.
What a night it was! So very quiet, and the sky was ablaze with stars. I felt the presence of God all around me, and I was content with Joseph beside me. As for the baby, what can I say? He was perfect. So the story began. The story of God's Son. The story of my child. And now our journey has brought us here, and we're making our way along the dusty road from Jericho, an untidy procession. At its centre is Jesus, seated on a donkey, upright and dignified. I'm so proud of my son. But it's also strange. The crowds are laying branches and cloaks on the road, and they're chanting. All this noise and excitement.
Here he comes! Here he comes! Coming up the dusty road from Jericho. Here he comes! Here he comes! Walking with a purpose only he can know. Here he comes! Here he comes! Join us and discover if he is the one. Here he comes! Here he comes! Trouble lies ahead before the day is done. Here he comes! Here he comes!
I think he's doing this on purpose.
Well, he's got to be. Nobody would ride a donkey like that on accident.
What do you say the donkey's name was again?
It's Joshua. It's a good donkey, that. Come on, Joshua.
Somebody said he's descended from King David.
What? The donkey?
Oh, idiot. Jesus, of course.
Well, if he is, he's a different kind of king than I expected.
I think you're right about that.
Here he comes! Here he comes!
Riding on a donkey. What a crazy sight.
Here he comes! Here he comes!
Can he be a king? It doesn't seem quite right.
Come and see! Come and see!
Now will all his enemies be put to flight?
Come and see! Come and see!
Lift your voice and praise him in the highest height.
Come and see! Come and see!
Come on, let's cheer him on his way.
Yeah.
Glory to the King!
Glory to the King! Glory to the King who comes! Hosanna to the King! Hosanna to the King! Hosanna to the King who comes!
worried about Jesus drawing attention to himself. But I'm afraid it got worse. No one could have imagined where he would go next or what he would do, but right into the lion's den, the place where his enemies were the strongest, the temple. Now, why did he have to stir up a hornet's nest like he did?
Oh my goodness, I've never seen anything like it. Normally in the temple, there's just a few stalls buying and selling birds and animals for sacrifice. Oh, and of course the money changers making a profit for the Sanhedrin. But not today. I'd heard about this Jesus, but to see him in the temple was unbelievable. He just strode through the place, shouting and making all sorts of trouble. I couldn't believe my eyes. I've got to tell my husband, but he won't believe me.
You here again?
Oh, can't keep away, me.
Well, did you see all that?
That was that Jesus we seen this morning, right in Jerusalem on the donkey.
That's right.
Well, I thought I'd seen it all, but this afternoon that tops it.
What a confusion in there, all caused by that one man.
If I hadn't have seen it, I wouldn't have believed it.
Did you hear what Jesus said? He said the temple is the house of God, should be a place of prayer.
Well, that's true enough.
And he told all those traders they turned into a den of robbers.
Well, that's not going to make him very popular.
Well, he's only saying what we've all known for years.
Yeah, but we haven't had the courage to say it.
Did you see him use that whip?
He certainly won't forget what he was saying.
I wonder who's going to clear up all that mess those birds made.
Well, it isn't going to be me.
Come on, before someone wants this money back.
What money?
Don't ask.
After all that, not surprisingly, we knew that Jesus needed to get away from the Pharisees and to rest. So we've all come to Bethany to stay with Martha and Mary and dear Lazarus, who, in thanks for Jesus bringing him back from the tomb, offered his home as a sanctuary where Jesus could meet with his friends. But even here, his peace is disturbed. Jesus has taken time to visit a close friend, Simon, and they're enjoying a meal together when their evening was disrupted.
It is wonderful to have Jesus visit us. We live a quiet life here in Bethany, and several people have said that this is the perfect place for Jesus. You see, I'm really no one out of the ordinary. But what I just did at Simon's home was very strange, and it took a lot of courage too. You see, I had this alabaster jar of perfume, pure nard, very expensive. It was given to me by my mother, and I'd been saving it for a special occasion. Well, something told me that this was it. A visit from Jesus the healer, who several people had said the Pharisees were planning to kill. So I took it to the feast at Simon's house. And I hadn't been invited, but I didn't care about that. And I went up to Jesus, and I poured the perfume onto his head to prepare him for his burial. Well, you should have heard the commotion. But Jesus just smiled. He understood. And he said it was a beautiful thing I had done to prepare him for his burial. Oh, the very thought of that now makes me shiver. But he seemed so very calm about it, as though he was ready for it. I only hope my mother would have approved of what I've done. Now I've come away. It's over. I can do no more for him. I wonder if I shall ever see him again.
Mary had done a wonderful and beautiful thing for Jesus. But it was time for us to go back to Jerusalem. Jesus was adamant that we return. He said he wants to have his last Passover meal in the city, the very place where his enemies lay in wait. The men have gone with Jesus to an upper room in the house of John Mark's mother. Of course, we women aren't allowed in the room for the Passover feast. So I wonder what Jesus will say and do at this very special meal. For now, they're protected behind closed shutters. But I just wonder how much longer they're going to be safe.
Within the house, the yellow lamplight fills the quiet shuttered room. Out in the streets, the searching soldiers wander through the evening gloom. As the 12 disciples gather, stepping from the darkened streets.
What is this? Their Lord and Master kneels to wash their dusty feet. He has lessons still to teach them. This example they will see. Shows the path they need to follow. Teaches them humility.
Upon the cushions they now all recline, and on the table rests the bread and wine. The moment has come. He breaks the bread.
The lamp makes a halo around his head. His end is at hand and his course is now set. He utters the words they will never forget.
This bread is my body, which soon will be broken for you. Share this, and remember it brings you a life that is new.
The moment has come. He blesses the wine, the hand of the Lord on the fruit of the vine.
His end is at hand, and his course now is set. He utters the words they will never forget.
This wine is my lifeblood, which soon will be poured out for you. Drink this, and remember it brings you a life that is new.
The feast now is over. It's time to depart. They leave for Gethsemane with fear in their hearts.
What lies in the future they cannot foretell, but Jesus is with them, so all will be well.
Their Master is with them, so all will be well.
Now that the meal is finished, I've done something which I know Jesus would not have approved of. And it's awfully stupid, but I just couldn't help myself. I just couldn't stay away from my son. I had to stay close to him. So I've come here to Gethsemane. Oh, but I haven't come on my own. Mary of Magdala has come with me. She loves Jesus as much as I do, and she can be really tough when she needs to be. So now we're in the olive groves on this terrible night, and one which I know I shall never forget. Oh, Mary, I don't know what we're doing here. I know we shouldn't be here, but I just couldn't stay away.
There's nothing to be afraid of, Mary.
But I couldn't help it, and it's so dark here. I mean, I don't know which way to turn.
Don't worry, together we will find them.
Have they really come here to this place?
Yes, they'll be in a clearing somewhere. We'll find them.
Oh, thank goodness the soldiers didn't find us just now.
And thankfully, they've moved on.
But did you hear what they said about Judas?
Yes, and I'm afraid they'll find Jesus very soon, especially now with Judas to show them the way.
I have a feeling he's getting very well paid for what he's about to do, but I know he will never forgive himself.
Look, over there. It's Jesus.
He looks so distressed.
He's praying on his own, as he so often does.
He'll never give up now. He will go on in God's strength.
And no doubt he'll soon be arrested and taken to the high priest's house. There's nothing we can do. I feel so useless.
I know, Mary. I do as well. But I think we should go back down now. I feel so helpless. All through the night, I knew how much he was suffering, and I wanted to go to him and comfort him as I used to when he was a child. But I knew that I couldn't. He knew he was doing God's will, and he had to go on however hard it was. I'm ashamed to say that, with the exception of Peter and John, all the disciples deserted him in the garden. And when Jesus was arrested and taken away, John followed to the high priest's house, where, as he's known to them, he was able to go inside. Peter had to stay in the courtyard. And that's where he let Jesus down. Oh, poor Peter.
Hello. Did you have a quiet shift in the kitchen?
Not really. What about you? How are things in the courtyard?
Well, I managed to sneak out quietly, find somewhere where nobody noticed me, and was able to listen to the whole of that awful trial.
Is it all over then?
Well, it is now, if you can call it a trial. There were plenty of witnesses. No doubt they were well paid. But they couldn't agree amongst themselves. They were idiots, really. Not that it mattered, because they were going to find him guilty anyway.
Where have they taken him now?
I think they've taken him to Pilate.
I heard there was a stranger causing an upset.
There was. He said his name was Peter.
What did he do?
Well, nothing much, except make a fool of himself.
Well, how did he do that?
Well, 3 of us asked him very politely if it was one of Jesus' followers. And he said no 3 times very loudly and got very, very angry. I think he was from the north.
Why is he here?
Don't know. I think he had some idea that he could rescue Jesus. He came with a sword, but I don't think it would have been much good with it.
What happened to him?
Well, it was very odd, because on the 3rd time he said no, they led Jesus out past the colonnade, and he just looked at Peter, who promptly burst into tears.
Not exactly a brave soldier then.
No, and then he ran off.
So it's all over then?
It would appear to be, yes. But now there seems to clear up.
Nothing new there then?
Nope. And washing up's not my favourite occupation.
Nor mine. Come on, let's get it over with.
Now things are getting worse and they're escalating out of control. Because of all this, Mary and I decide to go straight to Pilate's fortress. We know the Pharisees would have to take Jesus there in the end if they wanted the death penalty. And we knew they did. So we're waiting at the fortress when suddenly Pilate appears. And Jesus is with him too. Oh, my heart aches for him. He's obviously been beaten. We can see the bruises, but how could they do that to him? He's done nothing wrong. And then Pilate starts to address the crowd.
Citizens, I give you this man. What should be his fate? My wife says he is innocent. Why should I not listen to her? This Jesus speaks to me of truth. But what is truth?
Oh, come on! Get on with it! Oh, come on!
Enough! This must come to an end. I can release to you one prisoner on your festival. It can be Barabbas the rebel or this Jesus, your king. Which do you want?
We want Barabbas! We want Barabbas!
Barabbas? Then what shall I do with this Jesus you brought to me so early in the morning? You want him dead? Very well. I've had enough. I wash my hands of the whole affair. Soldiers, take him away. You know what to do with him.
I knew that it would be hard. This is much worse than I ever imagined. At the age of only 33, my son is going to die a slow and terrible death, nailed to a wooden cross. What has he done to deserve this? He's still a young man, and so much of his life should still be ahead of him. But he's determined that this is God's will for him. And who am I to argue with that? I know he loves me, and that's enough. But what is happening to him is causing me so much pain. But his suffering will be far worse. May God grant that it will be over quickly. Then at last there will be the need for the myrrh, which I'd kept for over 30 years. Those strange visitors were wiser than I knew when they gave it to me on that wonderful, wonderful night in Bethlehem. It all seems like a dream now, but it was real. And this is real, and his suffering is real, and death is real. Oh, may God give me the strength to bear it for his sake. I must be strong for my son.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun is already hot. Dark clouds are gathering in the west. A bare hillside, not a tree to be seen, just the upright of 3 crosses, 2 of which are already occupied by thieves suffering the punishment for their crime. The 3rd upright waits for the man now summoning all his remaining strength to climb the unforgiving hill, the hill of the skull.
The blazing sun is burning hot, and the skies are turning black as Jesus climbs Golgotha Hill with a crossbeam on his back.
As Jesus climbs Golgotha Hill with a crossbeam on his back.
The weight becomes too much for him in this still and humid air. So Simon takes the heavy weight, which he can no longer bear.
So Simon takes the heavy weight, which he can no longer bear.
At last they reach the place of death, where criminals have stood. They lay him down upon the ground and nail him to the wood.
They lay him down upon the ground and nail him to the wood.
They roughly raise him up. His friends can hardly bear their loss. The soldiers go and leave him there,
to hang upon his cross.
The soldiers go and leave him there to hang upon his cross.
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me?
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul.
He restores my soul.
Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
It is finished.
And, so saying, Mary's son gave up his spirit and breathed his last.
As at his birth, the skies were dark when on the cross he hung. But when he bowed his head and died, no angel songs were sung. And for a moment it seemed the world would cease its spinning. But though his life had reached its end, that end was God's beginning.